Hello, hello everyone. Welcome to the channel. I'm just going to give it a few minutes for people to join us before we get started. I hope that you are doing well, that you've had a good week. We've had another busy week and the weather has definitely turned colder, so it's much more autumnal at the moment. Hi Dawn, how are you? It's great to have you. I'm very excited about today's tutorial and color along. I'm glad that you're well, Dawn. How are the grandkids? And the rest of the family? So for those of you who are new to the channel, if you're new to our live color alongs, it's great to have you. I am going to be doing skin tone. So I do want to encourage you, if you have any questions or around skin tone, anything you'd like to see or know, please do let me know, because then I can explain the process a lot more, hopefully bring some clarity. And we are going to be coloring in grayscale. So if you have any questions around grayscale, let me know, and then I can happily do that. Oh, that's lovely, Dawn. I'm glad to hear that your family is all well. Right, so we're coloring in Fairy and Fantasy 2, the grayscale version by Christine Karron, or Karron, over, I think it's Christine Karron. And we're going to be doing this page, and I will be using Polychromos. This was a requested tutorial, and I picked this picture because I really love the amount of skin that we've got going on here, and the grayscale will also make it easier to know where to put our shadows and our highlights. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a base layer on all of the skin, and I'm going to use an ivory, and that's just going to change the color of the paper, and it will give a very light look to it. And I also quite enjoy creating base layers on my skin tones. It does help with the layering as well. So I'm using Ivory 103, and I'm just going to just lightly and slowly. I don't like rushing my skin tones because if you rush them, they end up quite, they don't end up smooth, and you get this like lined and grainy texture, and we really don't want that. We want to try and give her very beautiful skin. I usually color skin tone with Prismacolors, and so I'm looking forward to seeing and practicing more with polys. But I would do the same process regardless of what colored pencils I have. I would definitely still lay down that base layer. Instead of cream, I would use a cream in Prismacolors instead of this ivory. You could possibly also use an eggshell. I haven't tried eggshell yet, but I will definitely be trying that in the future. So I'm going to try and zoom you in a bit more so you can see a bit better. Now, I'm not going to go in over every part of the skin because I'm going to actually leave a highlight, and I want to use the white of the paper a little bit. So I'm going to create a highlight kind of around in here. If I find later on in as the skin builds up that this is too much, I'll come in with the ivory and I will play with it and make it more what I have in mind. But I do try leave my white highlight zones on the skin white, and then I will enhance it with a white pencil as I go. So again, you want to do circular motions, a light to medium pressure. You'd probably rather go light to medium than medium to light, because you want to get the balance of the skin colors quite good. If you press too hard with a yellow undertone, whether it's a cream or an ivory, you can make the skin quite yellow, and then you would need to use a very light purple to counter and soften that yellow. Hello Katerina, how are you? It's great to have you. Welcome. Now the key with faces and portraits, you don't see really drawings of a nose. They'll draw this part here and this part and maybe the base here, and they'll probably have a line here on the side of the nose, and that is because when we do faces, we actually create the contours and the shapes of the face using the shading. So where over here it will be a heavier shadowed area, and that is going to create that look of a nose. And here we're going to have a highlight at the tip here. So this bit I'm going to color all over here on her nose, but I am going to leave a white spot on the tip here because I want to show that the light is catching it. Because of this being a grayscale, I don't have to worry as much about the exact places for shadows and highlights, because the grayscale shows me where I need to go. So I don't know if you can see how she's already got quite a white, yellow tinge to her. Her hair here is creating quite a lot of a shadow, so we won't have a white highlight, we'll just have a light area. Alright, and I'm going to leave a bit of a white spot here on the side of the cheek because it's catching quite a bit of light. And I might, if I haven't done so here, I might lift up some pigment later on. Again, I do color skin with a bit of a feel. It is also good practice, if possible, to have a reference photo nearby just to help you, but I thought I would keep that really simple for you, and I would just show you the very basics of building up skin tone and how it works. Now, if you do have any questions, feel free to ask away. I'm more than happy to do my best to answer them. If I don't know the answers, I'm happy to also research and find out for you. So the same thing I would do on the rest of the skin. I would do a base using this ivory. Now let's have a look at why would we use a mixture of colors and not go straight to a flesh color like beige, red, or flesh pink or anything like that. Well, when you look at skin tone, even if you look at your own skin tone, there are many shades of color, and when you put all those shades together and blend them together, they create beautiful skin. So if I was to bring my hand up here, I can see under this light I have a yellow undertone. I've got some bluey green here where my veins are. I have pinks. Where the shadows are falling, I'll have a bit more reds. If I wanted to add like some of my freckles, it would be browns, like a sienna brown or burnt ochre. So my skin is not just a straight beige red. It's not that much pink. It needs the yellow to balance the pink, and it needs some browns to create the shadows. It also needs the blues to create the blue veins. Now, depending on the undertone of skin, some people may have a more blue undertone, and that's where having your reference photos can be quite helpful, because they show you what is going on in your skin. Now, when I was in my mid-teens, I remember sitting with my grandmother, and she had a fashion book all about how you're supposed to dress, how to know what color palette of clothes would suit your skin tone. So I learned from that book that people have different undertones and skin tones, and depending on the mixture of the undertones and the colors, you would then choose appropriate clothing, and it would complement your skin tone. So for example, an autumn skin tone, a person with a lot of yellow and a bit of reds, they would do well with teals, oranges, reds, browns, those sort of clothing, lavender, and the same would go for makeup. Now, we need to bring that into our portrait. So what we do is we start by gently building up the different tonal values in our skin. So it would be laying down that beautiful yellow undertone, or if it's a person with maybe a more blue undertone, it would be adding in a very gentle blue. Now, in your more advanced skin tone colorings, people do use purples and blues and greens, because that's what's creating that more realistic look. But because I wanted to really make it simple for you, I thought we would just stick to some of the more basics. So we're not going to really implement too much of those blues and greens or even purples. Okay, so I'm not going to do all of this skin right here yellow. I want to start bringing in the beige red. Now this is the lightest flesh looking color in the Polychromos, and what we're going to do is we're going to go over where I've put the ivory, but I am going to fade it in, so I'm not going to go straight up to where I've left those white patches. I'm going to bring the ivory, the beige red, and I'm going to go over. Now here I can put, because this is a shadow, I can put a slightly harder pressure and then lighten it up as I come out. And taking your time with skin tone will really pay off, because If you are too heavy-handed with one color, then you'll need to work with the other shades to complement it and to balance it out. So working in light layers and going multiple times is very beneficial when we are doing our skin tone. So now we can see just going over it, and every time I go over here I'm adding another layer. You want to try and keep a relatively sharp pencil because that just helps the Polychromos to lay down well. Also with polys, you want to start off with very light layers and put down several light layers before you apply a harder pressure. And this is just to build the colors up slowly, and when you're ready to apply a harder pressure, you've actually got something to start blending with. So again, just in small circles, going in the direction of the skin, trying to keep it light and smooth. Now this beige red is a bit pinky, so as it mixes with the yellow, it will give it a much more lively color. You can see she's already looking a lot more vibrant than just with the yellow. Alright, now I'm finding that this circle here of white is quite light. It's a bit too much, so I'm going to actually bring it back in my ivory, and I'm going to just close in a bit here and just bring this down. And then I go back over that with my beige red. Now, I've never really gotten the hang of makeup, so I tend to stick to quite a natural portrait look. So I'll do probably more of the darker browns for makeup. But if you are more skilled at makeup in your personal life and with coloring, then you know, you could leave this area here and build up that area with your makeup colors. So again, it's just light layers going in a circular motion and following the shape of the face. And these are just the base layers. We will add blush and definition as we build up the darker shades. So again, because it's grayscale, we just follow the grayscale and it just shows us where to go and how much to put and where. So this really does take away a lot of the guesswork in doing portraits. And when I started learning skin tone, I used a lot of Elena Lazareva's grayscale. I had a book of her fairies, and I would practice the various skin tones on the grayscale because I did not know where else to put shadows. I didn't understand. So using the grayscale really did help me to understand more how I was to color and put down my shades. So if you're a beginner to skin tone, I do recommend coloring grayscale portraits until you feel confident and more settled in knowing where your shadows go and the contours of the face. Now, I'm probably going to give her natural lips or red lipstick. I quite like doing that, so I can bring some of this beige red here onto her lips. And I just follow the same principle on every part of skin that I see. So skin tone does take a good few hours. It will probably take 2 hours to finish most of the skin. I'm not even sure we'll finish all of the skin. It is a slow process. Okay, so now if I was to go, I'd do ivory on all of this, and I would just do my base layer. And again, those light circular motions. And then once we've done all of this with the ivory and then brought in the beige red, we will move on to a slightly darker tone and start building up those mid-tones. Now here I'm going to leave a bit of a white highlight. Now if you look at the Asian skin tones, you will find that their skin tone is a lot lighter, and so your colors would be a lot lighter. You would use an ivory, a beige red, a white pencil as a blender, and maybe a light brown. So depending on the skin tone that you are wanting to color, it will reflect in the color choices that you use. So for today, we are just going to be doing a Caucasian, just a fair Caucasian skin tone. Just what I, in my mind, kind of perceive as a standard white European skin tone. If you were to do more of a Mediterranean skin tone, you would probably use some yellow ochres, and some of your burnt siennas, and you would just choose slightly warmer browner colors and then build it gently into your skin tone. For the African skin tones, you would use a lot more yellow ochre, burnt umber, rich browns, some darker browns, and I personally would probably add purples and blues in my shadowed areas. It all depends on whether I'm going for a yellow undertone in my African skin tone, or if I'm going for a cooler, more blue tinged skin tone, in which case, you know, your very dark blacks. So it really does depend entirely on how you want to color in your portrait, and also the design of your portrait. Unfortunately, finding African skin tones for portraits in coloring books is a little bit harder to come by. You can get African portraits where they have long hair, because African hair can grow long. What they have to do is relax their hair in order for it to look more wavy and straight. It also depends, entirely on the portrait you are coloring. And so now I'm going for my beige red, and I'm just going to go over all these areas and just deepen up my base tones. So here, there's not a lot of highlights here, so I can really just go for it and put down this beige red. So I'm just continuing these light layers. I thought I would show you the entire process on the entire page. So if this is a bit long and tedious for you, on the replay you can always speed up the video and you can get through it a bit quicker. Now you can put a very light shade of beige red in the nails, because if you again pick up your own hand and you look at your own nails, they're not white, they have that fleshy undertone to them. So you could add that, unless you wanted to do nail polish, in which case just pick the colors that you want. I would do slightly darker at the base and then lighter to the tip, and you can do the nail polish that way. So again, I'm just following the grayscale. I'm letting it guide me. I'm being mindful of creating some highlighted areas on her hands, but also where that it won't have a whole lot of those highlights. Alright, so I'm almost done with this. Now what I'm going to do is also bring out some reds. Now I need the reds in my midtones and my shadows because I want to continue to deepen and make the skin tone lively. Okay, so let's come back to her face, and this time I'm going to be using a Venetian Red, and again I'm going to be using this very lightly, and I'm going to start in that shadowed area and I'm going to bring it in the shadows, and I'm going to come out just gently with a light pressure. I don't want to build this up too quickly, because if I make this too dark, it will not be fun. So just a very light pressure. And I'm trying to go in those circular motions. Okay, you can bring it gently in here where her hair is parted. Okay, so I'm also holding my pencil a bit towards the back just to help me keep a light pressure. So under the lip is always going to have a shadow cast, especially when the portrait is at this angle. And you want to leave a slight white bit over here on the corners of the mouth. Now I really do want to encourage you to not stop too early. You want to really create very rich skin. And when you put in the eyes, the lipstick, and the hair, it tones down the skin. So if it looks really red or dark or deep, don't worry, it's supposed to. As you add the hair and the eyes, it will soften it and even it out. So again, I'm focusing in the shadows, gently bringing it out, but I'm not going to go into all of my lighter areas. And what I do on the face, I follow the same principles on the rest of the body. You can go slightly deeper in the darker shadows, but make sure you're lighter in the lighter areas. As you come out to the lighter areas, just vary that pressure. Now this is Amazon paper, and what I can tell you is that polys on Amazon paper do work quite well, especially if you layer up in layers. Now this is about my third layer already, and I can still feel I have a lot of tooth in the paper left. So I could probably continue lightly layering up a good probably 8 or so layers before I even worry that I'm getting to my saturated point. So with the Amazon paper, it's all, I find, one, knowing which level of Amazon paper it has been used, and also the right pencils. I don't prime my Amazon paper. I haven't gotten to that stage yet. I know there are colorists who do prime or prep their Amazon paper with gesso and other things, or satin glaze. I've never tested that, and I can see that these polys on this particular paper, or this form of the Amazon paper, is working quite well. Okay, so here on these cracks, you can very lightly just highlight them. And over here on the knuckles. And we will deepen that with some browns in a minute. Now, because this is Amazon paper, I am mindful that at some point I will need to deepen my pressure to help build up those colors. But for now, these light layers are working very beautifully. Again, just lightly into the lighter areas. You can be slightly heavier handed in the shadows. Don't worry if you go out the lines, that's what the eraser's for. Okay, so that's the Venetian Red. So as you can see, she's already got a bit more color to her. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a browner color. So I'm going to go quite light still, and I'm going to use a Bistre. And I'm going to come here to the shadows. And I'm going to focus this Bistre just here in the shadows. Now you see the brown, what it's doing is it's actually knocking back that red. And that is how the layering up of the different shades that you choose in your color combo is going to affect your paper. I'm sorry, not your paper, your skin tone. So now that we've gone over this with brown, we're going to need to bring back that red. And if we end up with a bit too much red, then we balance it out by bringing in a bit more of the yellow. And we just continue to play with it until it gets to the point where we are happy with it. Okay, so this brown just here in the shadows. Now this particular shade of brown has also got a slight yellow undertone to it, and would possibly be a good undertone or a second undertone in African skin. Especially if you're going for an African skin with a more yellow undertone. So I've watched quite a few videos where I've seen people provide combos, color combos for skin tone, but I found it quite a challenge to find tutorials where you can see skin tone being colored. Chris Cheng is one of those coloring channels where you can see an artist coloring skin tones, and I find her videos quite easy to follow. Sometimes I will look at artists who do realism art, and I will watch their tutorials and videos. But sometimes it's nice to have a color along is dedicated to a particular skin tone, and possibly even a particular set of pencils that you are interested in learning. Which is why I decided to do this tutorial / live instead of just giving you the skin tone combos. As great as all of those are. So again, here you're just going to follow the black of the grayscale. You really want to try and stay true to that grayscale for these shadowed areas. And you just follow the lines. Okay, so now I'm going to come in with a slightly darker brown. I'm going to come in with the Van Dyk brown, and this I'm just going to place in my deepest shadows. Okay, now as you can see, this is not looking very pink, it's looking very brown and very sickly and pale, but we're going to fix that very soon. And this is normal in this process. It's normal for the layers to change. It's normal for your picture to go from looking vibrant to looking dull, and it's just part of that process. So just keep sticking with it, and keep going with me, and we'll add those beautiful layers in very soon, and we'll turn this into something really beautiful. accidentally bumped it with the brown. So just quickly fix it, touch it up. Okay, so in here where it's really, really dark, we just come in with our Van Dyk Brown. And about at this point, it is possible to even start deepening the pressure you're placing. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back with that Venetian Red, and I'm going to go over all this brown, and you're going to see it's going to start looking a bit more lifelike. And you can even start adding a bit more pressure. I wouldn't go hard pressure, I would carry it at a medium pressure, or bring your hand closer to the tip of the pencil and just carry on with that light pressure. And you can go over the same place multiple times just to deepen those layers, and that will help you build that pressure up very slowly. But we are not done. We still need a bit more pink and possibly a little bit more yellow, so we're going to carry on just working with this now. Now, if you want to give her a slightly warmer look, you can add some of your richer yellows and oranges, and that will give a warmer undertone. If you want her to look a little bit more white or maybe a bit more paler, then you wouldn't necessarily need to add in those oranges and yellows. Now this Venetian red is more of a reddish orange, so we will bring in a bit of pink in a minute. Because she needs a little bit more pink on her cheeks. So what I'm going to use is a salmon. And again, now I'm going to come out a little bit more. And what the pink does is it just neutralizes these brown shadowed areas, and it just helps add some of that beautiful color to her face. So again, the same process all over her skin, just to make sure that whatever skin tone we get, it's consistent throughout her body. So I can feel on this Amazon paper it's got a lot more pigment now, but I've still got enough tooth to continue to layer. But I can feel that I am soon going to be reaching saturation point. So we will only probably be able to get about 8 layers on this. And I'm on about my 6th or 7th layer, which I think for Amazon paper is pretty good, in my very humble opinion. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to pull up the beige red, and we are going to start going all of this. Now I'm working my way down from I worked from my lightest to my darkest, and then I've slowly started to go from my darkest to my lightest. So again, I'm just going over all my skin tone, just leaving my highlighted areas and my white highlights, and I'm just working on building up these layers, blending them out. Now the thing with skin tone is you can always come back to it later. So if you add the hair, the lipstick, the eyes, and even finish the whole picture and you feel that the skin is not really where you want it to be, you can always continue just layering it and building it up. Okay, before I blend it out, I want to bring in a bit more of a darker reddish color. So we're going to bring in some of this Caput Mortum Violet. Okay, because I'm not very ready for this skin tone to be done. So what I'm trying to do is bring in more of the reds, bring in some of the vibrancy into the shadowed areas. So as you can see, doing portraits, it does take time. They are not very quick, especially if you want to get them smooth as possible. Now this Caput Mortum is quite a dark bluey, I suppose it's got red and it's got like brown in it and some violet. So for the shadowed areas, just to deepen them, give them some richness, it is a great color. And you can already see the difference. It's just brightening up these shadows, which is what we want. We want to keep those shadows, but we also want to have them bright. So I'm going to just very lightly use a terracotta here in this part of the nose. Because this is just going to create a bit of warmth. And I'm just doing it very lightly. So now I'm going to come back in with my ivory, and I'm going to add some more ivory and just blend this out and see how it starts to look. So I'm not going to go and blend all the way into my shadowed areas because I've already used my beige red to blend some of that out. But what I am doing is using my ivory to blend out my midtones and my highlighted areas. Now over here I can see that I actually need a bit more beige red, so I'm just going to sharpen my beige red. And I'm going to come in and just work on this area here. Okay, then back to my ivory. Now at this point you could, if you have a mineral spirits or Gamsol or even a zested, you could blend your skin tone with a zested and it would also help smoothen and blend. Or you could use a blending pencil. I like to use my lightest tone, whether it's a white or an ivory, and just blend it out accordingly. Now bearing in mind that I'm using pencil, and pencil always is a much slower process than using a base of alcohol markers or other medium. And on your bigger portraits, the process does take a little bit longer than on your smaller portraits. Now, even as I'm looking at my portrait here, I can see that she still has probably a good more work still to do, because I can still build up these layers. So what I would do is I would start, now that I've gone back down to my ivory, I would go back up to my darkest colors. So after my ivory, I'm going to get my beige red, and I'm going to carry on layering up. Now, for some people, they could look at this portrait as it is now and feel that it is done, and it would still look very, very beautiful and turn out lovely. For me, it's not done. I have gotten used to deepening my portraits a little bit more than this, and I find that the result has been a more striking portrait. So I would continue working with this portrait now until it is got quite a strong tonal value. So I'm not really worrying too much now about what colors I need to lay down or where I need to lay down my shadows and my highlights. I'm now going to build up my tonal value and my saturation of pigment on the paper. And when I look at other people's colorings on Instagram, especially the colorists I aspire to, and I ask myself, what is it about their colorings that I find so striking, so enjoyable to look at? What makes those portraits or pictures stand out? And often I find that it is because of the boldness of their colors. It's not necessarily because they have a limited palette or lots of colors. It will usually be because their tonal value is quite bold, so it is more striking. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to start adding a medium pressure, because my paper is not going to have much room for more layers, and I also don't want to be spending 5 hours on my portrait. So I'm going to start deepening my pressure, and just trying to go in a circular cross-hatching motion. So I'm using a medium to hard pressure now. Okay, so now I'm going to come back in with my Venetian Red. And just continue to build up my shadowed areas. Now I may not go through all the colors. I may stop and go back down to the ivory. Okay, so here, this bit here is actually her thumb. So what I need to do here is bring in the ivory, then have the beige red. So I've been wondering all evening what that is. Then you go up to the Bistre. So just follow, try and remember the way you went up in your polys, and then the Dyk Brown, the Caput Mortum, the Venetian Red, and the Beige Red. So we're back in with the Caput Mortum. Oh no, sorry, it was the Venetian Red. And we're just bringing back redness into the shadowed areas. Alright, so now if we take a black pencil, we want quite a sharp point. We can come here to her eyelids. And again, you're just trying to follow that grayscale. And it just will crisp it up. Now I'm going to take Dark Sepia because I want the shadow under her chin to be a bit darker. And the inside of her ear here needs to be relatively dark as well. Again, just deepening the very deeper shadows. And we're just defining some of these areas here. And then we will do the same in the rest of her body with the dark sepia and just redefine these areas. So your dark sepia is really just to help you redefine some of those lines that may have gotten a bit lost in the layers of your skin. And by deepening your shadows, you're also creating contrast for your lighter areas, and that will also help make your skin stand out and look darker. So it is a bit slower doing this because you really do want to make sure that as you come out, you lighten that pressure. And you don't need this dark sepia everywhere. Okay, so now I think what we'll do is we'll give her brown hair and we will make We could make the rose any color actually, but whatever, and then we'll give her pinkish lips. So we could even come here and then using Salmon, we can use some Madder 142. Then we'll use some fuchsia. And some magenta. Some Caput Mortum violet. Some salmon. Then some beige red. Back in with some madder. And a little bit of Deep Scarlet Red. And we can use some white for the highlights. And we can use some black here. We can give her some green eyes. So this is light green. Then we'll use some dark phthalo green. And then we're going to use some pine green right here at the tops. And then we'll go back over this with the light green. We'll use our black and we'll just deepen up the pupils. Alright, and now we'll take a white Posca pen or a white Universal Signo pen, even a white Sakura jelly roll, and we'll add back in the whites of the eyes. Now for the white of the eyes, we're going to take a bit of the Beige Red, you don't want too much. Then we're going to take a Cold Grey 3, the reason we're doing this is because we want to create the whites of the eyes without it looking glaringly white, which would just look weird. And then we would take a white pencil and just blend it in. Now in here in the tear ducts, you'd use Beige Red and a little bit of that Venetian Red. Again, you want to try and keep your pencil sharp. And then your white pencil, and just try and blend that out. Now, as I said, I don't normally do makeup, so what I might do is bring in some green gold or some raw umber. Sorry, this is actually raw umber. And just add some color here to her eyelids. And you can take some walnut brown. And then I would take my ivory and I would blend that out. So she's got some color, but it's not like hectic, thick makeup because I don't actually know how to do that. Alright. So that beige sienna in here. Okay, and then what you would do is you take your black pencil, and now you want to create those eyelashes, but you don't want to make, you know, hard lines. You want to keep that flicking motion, because that flicking motion is what's going to create natural eyelashes. And you can go in slightly different directions as well. And I try really hard to follow the grayscale because you don't want to add like too many eyelashes. Okay, so there you go. She's got skin, she's got eyes, lipstick, and all we need to do now is add hair, but I will do that in another video. We can quickly do her eyebrows. So because we're going to give her brown hair, you could take a Bistre, then a Dyk Brown, and again you want to create that flicking motion. And if you look carefully at the grayscale, you can actually see the slight lines for the hairs within the eyebrows. And then I would take a sepia, dark sepia, and I would start deepening it like that. And then you can always bring in a bit of the black pencil and just create some of those hair strokes. Right, there you go. She's got eyebrows. So that is how I would tackle skin, eyes, a bit of makeup, and eyebrows. In our next video, we will then do the hair, which will probably also take about 2 hours to really do it well and do it properly. And what we've got here is we've got some stars, and they will cause reflection onto her hair. So if we do the stars yellow shining into her hair, she would have slight yellow highlights. So I can show you how to do that. Thank you so much for joining me. I really hope that you've enjoyed seeing how I tackle just a light skin tone. It's been really fun to be able to do this for you and with you. I might still add more to her skin. We'll see. I want to do her hair first because often the portrait completely changes when you add the hair color. So I quite like how gentle she is, and I think it actually suits the style of the drawing. So I will see you in our next video and our next live. We will do hair, and I will also see you in other videos. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you have a really great weekend and week, and I will see you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.